Alrighty, we are here for the first episode of our webinar series. I'm so excited. Audrey, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Liam. I am truly honored to be your very first guest.
I mean, amazing as well. Like, we kind of scheduled this around a week ago, and in the space of a week, you've came up with 4 practical examples of how to use AI in copywriting and marketing. You've prepared all these slides, all these use cases that we're going to jump into on a practical level today. I'm amazed. How do you do it? How do you do it?
Yeah, that's what I always say. My secret is my human AI magic. So when I say I use AI, I really do, and I use it very effectively. And plus Audrey's magical touch. Yes, there's a secret sauce.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, with this, I mean, we always want to stay practical. So what I want to do is I want to jump straight into things, let you kind of start sharing your slides. I'll let you kind of lead the conversation, points you kind of want me to kind of have some input, just jump in and I'll jump in for a conversation. But let's jump straight into some practical examples, straight into your slides. Let's do it.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much for that, Liam. So I think for everyone who is tuning in, welcome. Today we are going to talk about AI for copywriting and marketing. Now, a bit about myself. I'm the founder of Close with Copy, a hybrid human AI copywriting consultancy. And did I start out my business thinking I was going to use AI? Absolutely not. So in fact, I think I told you this before, Liam. When I started my consultancy, ChatGPT launched. And one of my clients literally texted me and said, Audrey, you're going to be replaced. And he sent me the link of ChatGPT. So that was utterly exciting and horrifying at the same time. But I'm glad he did that because that's why I'm here today on the call with you and being able to share all these tips and tricks with you. So I've worked with global brands as well as small, medium businesses and startups and scale-ups. Very, very conversion driven my work is, but what I like to do is integrate AI in the processes. And today I want to share a couple of demos with you guys. So, human plus AI. Now, Liam, how often do you use AI every day or in your work?
Yeah, I mean, every day we use it for research. We're using Perplexity a bunch for sales prospecting, for automating our inbound, for automating our outbound. We use Fathom to record our calls and use the transcripts to communicate better. Like, we're using it in pretty much every area of our business, from the newsletter to podcast research to sales. There's a place for it everywhere.
That's right. So you can already see just from Liam's workflow, even a simple process of creating content, right? You have multiple parts to it, and that's why you need a combination of AI being able to streamline some of the workflows, but still having that human in the loop to identify what is your strategy, what is your audience insight, and being able to create content that converts. Which is why I like to say you need a combination of both human strategy and AI execution to see the magic. Now, there are a lot of brands and sometimes individuals who like to put out tons of AI content, but when it sounds too AI and when you see words like revolutionize, it's not this, it's that, right? When you see these words all the time, you get pretty turned off and you're like, I don't think that was written by a human. And in fact, that loses its credibility instantly and the work isn't effective. So if you see ads out there that seem very AI-like, are you gonna click on the ad? I don't think so, right? Which is why you need to combine both that human part with the AI part, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do that today. So I love this Big Mac method, right? It's a super tasty method that combines human, AI, human, right? So I like to start with my big idea, my strategy, my research, and then get AI to do a bit of the heavy lifting for me, and then have a think and critically review the work that AI has given me before prompting it again to ask it for the final results, right? And this actually gives me high quality content that is extremely tasty and converts. So I know that most of you here would already be familiar with the building blocks of creating a prompt, creating content. You have your role, the context, the target audience, tone of voice, structure, and examples. What I have found interestingly is you don't always have to have a mega prompt for the best results. Sometimes it is more than enough to have just a simple one-line prompt. Liam, is that something you have also seen when it comes to prompting?
I mean, we've tried one-shot prompting before, but to be honest, like we're the same. We found that the more information that you give the models, the more context, and the more detail that you put into the prompt, the better result you're going to get. And a lot of it's just iteration, so it's just trial and error. For example, if we're doing some research prompts for the Pro newsletter, then we'll give it as much information as possible, and slowly over time we'll kind of hone those blocks as well. We'll add more of what the role is, we'll get more specific, we'll add more context. Okay, we forgot this part before, so let's add this part now. So it's an iterative process, and one-shot prompting is hard to do, so yeah, we always put in as much detail as possible.
Yeah, definitely. So like what Liam said, I think giving it enough context and meat is important, right? Especially if you're building out something like a newsletter. And I have also found interestingly that AI responds to prompts in different ways. So it's almost like my intern, right? And I have to figure out what does this intern want, how do they operate. So for example, in my case, sometimes just using a very simple term like, can you make this sound more professional, works wonders. It's very simple. It's a bit like a mini tip that I have, but if you want a company's post to sound, a little bit more formal, just using simple keywords to anchor it actually helps. But we can also dive into that later. So, use case 1. Now, we really want to look into what you can do with AI and what is the ROI for it, right? You might say, Audrey, I can use AI, then how do I know if something is performing or not? So here's a case study that I have done with my team at Ray of Hope. So I work with a crowdfunding charity called Ray of Hope, and they are doing amazing work. What they do is they list different client campaigns, stories of clients who don't usually get support from the bigger institutions in Singapore, and they fall through the cracks. So Ray of Hope actually spotlights these stories, and using their crowdfunding platform is able to fund, and raise money for these clients. However, not everyone is a trained copywriter, right? And most people are not really, familiar with writing stories in an emotional way, in a way that gets people to convert. So I worked with the team to build a custom GPT to help them go from, spending hours writing a piece of campaign write-up to just taking about 10 to 15 minutes nowadays, and we have really streamlined and optimized this process. So they have saved about 70% more time writing cases, and this is something that not I am doing, but what my team members are doing right now, which is amazing. So what I love about AI is that you are empowering someone else to also be able to develop the same assets that you would have spent time to teach them how to do. So think about it, it's a mini way to impart your skill sets in a much quicker manner, right? So for example, in the beginning, right, what my case managers would do would be to write a super factual write-up. Fazel, who is a full-time security officer, had a heart attack and then he found a job. However, he had to be hospitalized frequently. You can see it's very factual writing. If you put this on a crowdfunding platform, is it going to convert? Maybe not, right?
No.
However, if you're able to write it in a more emotional way, right? So thinking about playing on the idea of wheels of change because he has been hospitalized, unable to walk, but also looking into very specific lines that are a lot more emotive, right? So AI even picked out certain quotes that it highlighted, right? And then it gave you subtitles so that you can quickly so that you can very quickly skim through the text without having to spend too much time reading factual content. And this makes it a lot more palatable for your audience. So I'm just going to show you a quick example of, how this could work. So, for example, this is the standard case manager write-up, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy whatever they have included in this post. And then I am going to go to my favorite platform, ChatGPT. So you can see I have created so many GPTs. Liam, now you know all my secrets.
Where's the Liam GPT?
They're all here.
I want my own GPT, come on.
Maybe it'll be there one day. So
I hope
I go
so.
to my list my list of GPTs, right? And then I go to the Ray of Hope campaign writer. And what I've done is actually gave enough instructions to this GPT such that it knows what makes a good quality campaign. So I can just very simply upload the document or just paste this original kind of case manager's write-up, and it's already going to help me to craft my campaign name, Wheels of Hope, help Fauzai write into a new beginning, and then a campaign title, and then even the context, what is the context, what happened, an opening for the story, the project background. And as you can see here, it's writing it in a lot more human way. So his fierce determination to provide for her no matter the cost, right? A lot more human sounding. And then you can see it's a lot more personal as well. So what I would then do is take this copy right here. We will review it, we'll make sure that nothing sounds too AI, that everything is factual, and then with this gives us a very strong foundational draft for V1 of the post. Yes. What do you think, Liam?
Well, I mean, you're raising a few points here. I think, one, when people think about using AI, the first thing that comes to mind is entrepreneurs and founders and how they are using it to make more money. So this is a really interesting example of how people are using it that essentially wouldn't really be much in a public domain. Like, this isn't going out as LinkedIn content, it's not going out on the social media platform, but it's a really useful example of saving a bunch of time for a repetitive process that you need to do time and time again. And I think the second part of it is just the amount of GPTs you have is really interesting, because it frames something that you've taken really niche use cases of things that you need to use AI for, a voice that you need to have, a kind of process that you need to execute, and you've created very specific GPTs, obviously this one being for campaigns, and gave it the right instructions to do that very specific thing, which I think you've gone around this in an amazing way by going very niche with what you're doing with each GPT. And you've obviously got a great result. We can kind of see the difference between what that baseline content was compared to what it is now. And I mean, I'm not a charity person or a fundraiser, but just seeing the examples there are amazing. I would love to learn more at some point about what the best practices for creating GPTs are and what the custom instructions are. So maybe we do that in another session as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I think, right, it's very interesting to see how you can start picking out pieces of your workflow, right? And not just thinking about how you leverage AI for yourself, but equipping your team members with the right skill sets, right? So even if you are not in copywriting or marketing, even if you're someone in finance, for example, and if you're able to crack and solve a piece of the puzzle and figure out how do you use AI to analyze certain pieces of information or cross-check frameworks, that in itself is a tool that you use to empower your team members so that they can run as fast as you want them to run. And that is extremely effective. So think about yourself using AI, but then now think about your team using AI. It's so much more powerful. So that is, for example, one use case, right? And I would love to also share a couple more examples. So use case 2. Now, I love writing ads for companies. I love seeing results. So I'm a bit results driven. So I will check, every single day, are we getting sales? Is our click-through rate increasing? Is our cost per click decreasing? And it gets me super pumped. Now, even before using AI, I was already doing so. With AI, I can do so 10 times faster. I'm not saying that AI is going to give you these results of being able to definitely boost your sales, but if you already have a very strong foundation on how you can craft ads that convert and you layer it with AI, you are able to create more content quickly and start testing them very quickly, right? And in the world of performance marketing, when you are putting out ads on Facebook or TikTok, you want to know what works and what doesn't. So you need to test different messaging angles, different headlines, different hooks, different copy options. And that's where AI is a super good bouncing board. And then it helps you to figure out what kind of angles can I test super rapidly in order to get the kind of results that I want. So for Ray of Hope, we managed to actually 10x their donations in less than 3 months by actually understanding audience insights, crafting ads that convert, and really putting out ads that make a difference, right? So when you pair a strong campaign landing page with a strong ad, that's when you really, really see results. So for ads, right, you really have to think about different pieces of the puzzle. It is not as straightforward as, what some people might think. Some people might say, but Audrey, isn't it just writing a headline? There is so much thought that goes behind a high conversion ad. You need to figure out your audience insights. So if I am writing an ad and my target audience is Liam, I have to figure out what is his interest, what is his pain points, motivations, desires. So I know Liam had 2 coffees today, and I know he needs to get super buzzed in the morning, right? So that could be an insight that I want to tap into. What if I wanted to sell, an energy bar, that allows you to get 10x more energy without having to drink 3 cups of coffee in the morning, right? And I'm starting to figure out what matters to you, why you need to wake up, why you need, a double shot in the morning, what keeps you going. So all these insights will start forming the foundations of what a good ad eventually looks like. And then I need to look at my competitive landscape. Who else is out there? Now, I position myself as an AI copywriter. There are many other folks out there who are either specialists in AI or copywriting. So I have carved a unique position for myself where I'm blending the both. So in the same vein, if you are a company or brand, you have to figure out who are your competitors, what are they saying, what are they claiming, and then figure out the third thing, your unique value proposition, right? How are you different from everyone else before you even craft your ads? Figure out your USPs, figure out your value proposition, then you can start feeding that information to AI. Without all these background information, if you're going to ask AI to write a post for you, it is going to sound very generic and you're not going to see any results. So that's why that human part is equally important in the process. So now you figured out the background information that you need, you can then think about what is the tone of voice, what is the style of writing, and what is the ad format you want to test. So all these become the Lego pieces that you want to play around with to start building out your workflows, your prompts, and then figuring out how to build an ad that converts. Yeah, does this make sense to you, Liam? Or, I don't know, did anything stand out to you?
I mean, 100%. I think it's like knowing who your audience is and knowing what their pain points are one of the most important things. Obviously, we've run the newsletter for a long time, and one of the great things about that is you get a back and forth with an audience, a large audience, for a long time. So you get to try different formats, see what works, do some A, B, C, D, E, F testing. So
Yes.
knowing your audience first and knowing what their pain points are. Okay, Liam's pain points is that he's not very good at waking up in the morning. Thus, let's tap into that. He needs more energy in the morning, and that's how I can present my value proposition, right? So, yeah, that's what really stands out to me is starting with your audience and really understanding what their pain points are. And we use that for ads for people that place ads in a newsletter, and when we're doing kind of ads for our different offerings, such as the accelerator or some courses that we do, we know that the pain point is that AI is very hard to keep up with, and people want to become the go-to person for their organization, for their SME. So you've got to tap into what is that person actually feeling first before you start kind of providing that solution, before you start providing that value, before you start speaking in a tone of voice that they understand. It all kind of starts with understanding who your audience is, what their pain points are, what are their emotions, what do they feel, what are they thinking when they look at that. So I'm in total agreement. All starts with audience insights and all kind of drips down from there.
Yeah, so there you have it, Liam, the copywriting expert. I think you should follow him for some copywriting tips. But yes, absolutely right. I think what you said about understanding your audience insights for your newsletters really, really work. In the same vein, it works for me, it works for my clients, and how you use AI in this process is, okay, now that I have these 6 elements, right, where can I use AI? Where do I start bringing AI into the picture? And that's where you start thinking. So I love this process. It's a creative process where there is no structured framework, but it depends on how you think about ideas and where do you want to start. So, for example, if I wanted to start from something like my audience insights, right, I could use a tool like, for example, Sybil, right? So Sybil is an AI note taker, and it's really good if you want to understand audience insights. And what I can do is to export some of my transcripts, from some of my clients, right? And then now I can ask either Sybil itself to identify audience insights for me, or I can go to ChatGPT and upload a couple of transcripts and ask it, can you find common pain points for me? And now with the common pain points, I can figure out, okay, how do I create a piece of content? So let's take a look at a quick demo right here. So I have a redacted customer transcript, and then I'm just going to copy it, and I'm going to go to my favorite, my bestie ChatGPT again. And in this case, maybe I might use ChatGPT o3 Mini because it is actually very good at thinking. If you use o3, you would see that it thinks in a very methodological way. So the results that you get are a lot better than if you, for example, just got ChatGPT 4.0 to do. And it's very interesting because I tested similar processes on o3 and 4 and got drastically different results. So maybe I can say, like, as an expert, audience insight researcher, can you pull customer pain points from this transcript of a discovery call for me? That's just a simple one, right? And then you just pop it in, and then you get AI to help you to do the heavy lifting, because you would already have had tons of sales calls and you would want to figure out what are some common threads that you can pull. So if I were you, I would actually export multiple transcripts and then upload it to ChatGPT. Or Sybil also has a new co-pilot feature in which you can ask it to review some of the transcripts for you. So over here, my key customer pain points were things like they feel very overwhelmed by the rapid pace of AI. It's so complex and it seems not really accessible, right? They also struggle with things like fragmented learning experiences. This is a very good insight. It's something that I wouldn't have necessarily thought of immediately, but okay, it makes sense because people are learning information from different places, but it's not consolidated. There is no system for it. Okay, maybe I want to work on that, right? Tool overload and integration challenges, I definitely hear that. And maybe a more tailored role specific training. So even in just one call, I've already pulled out 5 different pain points that I can start creating ads for. Very seamless process. If I were to not use AI, this process would have taken me hours, right? And you can use this for anything from creating ads to creating landing pages where you listen to clients, talk to customers, figure out their pain points, and then start crafting content that converts.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think
So
the
this
point
is how
here
you
is
use
that,
Sybil. Yeah.
sorry, I just wanted to hop in. I think something that's really important about that is humans are not very good at being able to pull out information and put it in a listicle format, right? We think in like fluid,
Yes.
complex ways, and it's really, really hard to kind of structure that information. And I think part of what these like AI note takers are really kind of presenting to us is that we need to be a bit more humble as salespeople, as business owners, as entrepreneurs, as managers, as C-suite executives, that we're not going to catch everything all the time. And it's really, really good to have tools like Sybil or Fireflies or Fathom there, because it allows us to pull information that we might have glossed over, pain points that might have been said time and time and time again, but we've maybe just not had the ear for it, or we've just missed it, or we've not paid attention to it, but it's coming up time and time again. And if you've got a sales process that you speak to customers a lot, then this is something that comes in really handy when you pull all that information, when you pull the information from 50 sales calls or 30 client interactions.
Yes.
That's when it becomes really powerful, because you can start to see that correlation at that point.
Yeah, and I think what it can do is there's qualitative and quantitative data, right? So GPT is also really good at identifying and understanding quantitative data. So if you have data from your CRM, if you have data from your your lead interactions where you score leads, you get all the data points, and then you can start figuring out who is that ideal customer persona, how do you best target them, and figure out what are their motivations, because that is what you actually need in order to sell. So one way that I like to then take those insights, right? So once I have like my stories, my insights, my starting point, then I can actually use AI to also help me to craft ads for me. So this is another example for Ray of Hope where we use this tool to create ads quickly and rapidly. So taking the same story that I just shared previously, I can just pop the entire case into this, and what this GPT will do is now it is going to create 3 different Facebook ad options for me that is already optimized for Facebook. I know, Liam, you're shaking your head. It's like, girl.
I'm just amazed. You've got to start selling GPTs. You got to be the GPT vendor. Honestly, I'd buy them.
This is how I think. It's like, how do I streamline my workflows? Then I start building different tools for that. And it's not very complicated, just how I think, right? So you can see here, like, okay, there are from wheelchair hero, maybe from wheelchair to delivery hero, support his comeback. So I don't copy and paste everything. I really carefully review the content. And I may or may not like certain posts, right? So for example, this one, love drives him forward. If I use this headline, I can pair a picture of Mr. Fauzal and his wife and him in the wheelchair. That's really sweet. I can add a donation bar, and then I can just put, Fauzal won't give up, help him to keep going on his journey. Yeah, I'm just tweaking copy as I go along and being able to figure out how do I tell his story while using this as a base. So if I don't like anything, I can always say, give me more visual copy options, or I want something that is a lot more emotional, or I want something in the style of Apple. You can even give ChatGPT brands that you like, and then it will start crafting content in that way. So that is very interesting, right? And because Facebook has a different ad format, I needed to create another one for Google Ads. So you could see I have 2 different GPTs, and this one does the same thing, just that now we are formatting it for Google instead. So if I have multiple campaigns that I want to run every month, right? I can just quickly go through my 2 GPTs and start thinking, okay, what are some great headlines that I like? How do I, select the descriptions that I like? Start putting pieces together. Yeah, and you get ads done very quickly. So this is a very actionable way of using AI to offload some of, your usual workflows.
I mean, blown away. Well, I don't have anything to comment. I'm blown away. I know how anyone that's been in marketing for a long time or done ads for a long time knows how time consuming this has been.
Yes.
And you having to rely on someone that's like an expert in their field. And yeah, the fact that I just want to touch on the fact that you went very specific with your niche use cases. This GPT does specifically Google Ads. This one does specifically Facebook. I think that's what a lot of people get wrong, as they try to create GPTs or use AI for very general stuff. But I mean, I always reiterate, like, have a very specific niche use case and build something around that, and slowly over time they'll kind of compound on each other. And you can start to tie them together with Zapier or Make or APIs in the future as well.
That's a great idea. Definitely.
We'll get Joe Fu on to do that. We've got a few automations
you can see
internally.
We'll be building a machine after this.
You go.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, so one thing that I actually wanted to build on is, if you notice, this is a Ray of Hope Google Ads Writer. It is not a Google Ads Writer. Why? Because I want to give it enough context and information even before writing my ads. So when I create the custom GPTs, I make sure they know everything about my brand, they know what we stand for, what are our values, so that when they craft the ads, there's a lot more nuance to it. So one thing that you can take away from this is, how do I craft very specific GPTs with the context that it needs to create the content that I want, right? Another perhaps interesting thing that you might want to do is start building out projects where you can actually create more, upload your project files, and then at least, in this project file, right, it has the memory and the context of what you need. So I use it to craft as you can see, so many different things. So it has one knowledge base. I take it as one intern with one knowledge base, and then I work with this intern to get things done. So different ways to use ChatGPT. You just got to be creative about your process. So that's that. And I think the third use case that you might find interesting, especially those of you who have, come across my content on LinkedIn, is I can craft posts in just 2 minutes using ChatGPT mobile right now, and it's extremely powerful. Nobody knows that, but it's so crazy that people think you have to use another AI tool out there for LinkedIn posts, when in fact ChatGPT has gotten so good that you don't have to. And if, for example, even without a custom GPT, I actually just told it to rewrite things in my tone of voice and my style, and because I've written so many LinkedIn posts on my own GPT, it sort of understood my style. So even without prompting, even without giving it a lot of instructions or context, my personal ChatGPT knows who Audrey is and can recreate content my way. And that's how powerful it actually is, right? So this post, for example, that I wrote, that is highly personal, I wrote it for International Women's Day. It is formatted for LinkedIn. There's a lot of rhythm to it. There's a lot of nice use of flowing words and sentence structures. I wrote it with the help of AI, and what I did was just opened my phone, opened ChatGPT mobile, and I just started talking to it. And I just said, I want to write a post about da 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 da, and then it formatted it for me for LinkedIn. So that's how efficient and quick you can create content. So if anyone says that they don't have time to create content, I think they should think again.
That's amazing. You could just speak to your phone and it just produced this from a conversation.
Yes, and the beautiful thing is, of course, there's still that human in the loop, right, to do a bit of refining and editing, but it can already tell the story. So we're gonna try a demo now, and let's see if it works. So Liam, give me a topic.
Oh, give you a topic.
Give me a
Singaporean
topic.
coffee. I want to talk about Singaporean coffee and why it's important.
Okay, let's I'm just gonna say some nonsense, okay? So I'm gonna use ChatGPT mobile here. I'm gonna click the transcribe button, and I'm just gonna say, write me a LinkedIn post based on the following transcript, okay? Post in Audrey's style based on the following transcript. On the following transcript. So let's see. Okay, I'm gonna say, the one thing that most people don't know about Singaporean coffee is that sometimes we brew coffee in socks. Yes, socks. They are brown socks that are incredibly long, in which you add the coffee beans and hot water too. But the fun fact is it tastes extremely fragrant and doesn't smell like sock. Okay, let's take a look. So I am now it has transcribed it, and now I'm gonna send it through to ChatGPT mobile, and it says, okay, oh, this is pretty good. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can share my screen here and see if it appears, right? So, it's still typing my post, and I think it will be an interesting one. So it may or may not work, but let's see if I can show you. You can see whether it's reflected here. So what I do sometimes is I record on my phone, right? And then I would check whether it's reflected, on my desktop and see if it works. So let's see if it has Singaporean coffee insights. I'm just gonna refresh it again. This one over here, beautiful. Okay, see this. I'm gonna read it out, okay? Most people don't know about this Singaporean coffee. We brew it in socks, not gym socks. These are long brown coffee socks that look like a cross between a science lab beaker filter and something your grandma might use to strain soup. You pour ground coffee in hot water and let it drip. Sounds bizarre, but the result, fragrant, bold, and deep. Look at it. What do you think? Tell me what you think.
It's got the tonality so down, fragrant, bold, deep, nothing like how it sounds. You can even see aesthetically the way it flows from longer to shorter to longer to shorter to longer to shorter. And that's from a transcript as well. No one can complain about having a tough time generating LinkedIn posts anymore. If you could do this with a random conversation we've had and a voice note, no one can complain.
It took 1 minute, right? And it's so beautiful, right? And they even asked me, do you want it a CTA or a business tie-in? So let's try. Please link it to my copywriting services. Okay, let's just see what it comes up with. And you can see the original prompt, right? It's just write me a LinkedIn post in Audrey's style. And I know, because I've tested this multiple times, that it works for me on my own ChatGPT account. But when I tried it on a new ChatGPT account, it couldn't quite recreate the same success. So my ChatGPT seems to be very personal to me, and yours could be personalized to your own writing style as well. So yeah, okay. DM me or drop a coffee below and I'll reach out. Let's brew something bold together. Oh, I don't mind that, but they even linked it to copywriting. Pretty cool, no?
Love it. Yeah, I love it. I'm sold. Give me your services immediately, please. I want the bag.
So it's so handy, right? Nobody believes that I take 1 minute, but there you go, proof in the pudding. So yeah, so that's what I do, right? Being able to use AI very effectively to maximize my time. And what I then tell my clients to do is to really figure out, how do you use LinkedIn for thought leadership? Because if I were to just post random posts about coffee socks every day, I don't think I'm going to get any clients like that. So you still need a LinkedIn content strategy. You still need to think about what is your communication framework, what are your content pillars, and how do you get started with prompting to make it make sense for you. So before you even get started on LinkedIn, just for a quick one, if you are thinking about building your brand, you need to figure out, what do you stand for, what do you do, and how you impact others, right? Building out your communication pillars will then help you to create content. So assuming you have something like that, and I did this for Ray of Hope, right? What the brand can then do is to, hey, I can get the general manager to just do a quick audio transcription of why we exist at Ray of Hope and, how we work. And then I turn that into a LinkedIn post, and that is already what we stand for. And then another post about what we do at Ray of Hope, right? So I could take a client campaign, the one that I showed you, use AI to also get a new LinkedIn post about that, and that's another example. Or even case studies. If I have a super long case study and I want to condense that for LinkedIn, turn it into a carousel, I can use AI for that as well. So many ways to use it. I won't dive into this document, but there you go. This is how you combine thinking about strategy, right, with the use of AI. So now you're pairing the convenience of AI with a strategy that works for your brand. And I know since we have a short bit of time left, I want to show you something that I'm very excited to share. This is my ultimate ChatGPT, mini GPT that I love. It's my Alex Hormizzi's Sales GPT. I used to believe in investing in coaches, but now I just invest in building GPTs for myself. So I am going to show you this use case and you tell me if it's powerful or not. So I built Alex Sales GPT by downloading 4 hours of his top sales transcripts and his top sales advice on YouTube. So it's free, it's out there. I just downloaded it, got it transcribed using AI, and then uploaded it to this GPT and gave it some context. And now I can ask it, different things. So let's just try it together, and then we can see how it works. I use this GPT for many things, but Liam, why not you give me a use case? So for example, you met a client and they have certain objections. What is the first objection most clients have?
Too expensive for me.
Okay. So how do I confront a client who says my services are too expensive? Okay. And then, so the thing is, if you were to use this very simple question on a regular ChatGPT, it's not gonna give you this context because it's not trained in that frame of mind. So firstly, what it's going to do is going to look at its existing 4 hours database and transcript and figure out what makes sense for you. Then figure out how does it answer it's too expensive the objection, right? So first it tells me to do a mindset check. Okay, if you didn't get a gasp, you didn't go high enough, so that gasp is what I want. Okay, now I have a confidence booster. Fine. Now how to confront that? Is that a bad thing? If it's expensive for you, it's a good thing. It means you actually try. So this is something that he mentioned on a couple of podcasts. He reframes the price point as something that's being great, because if it hurts, you're going to put effort and you're going to learn. And then one thing he always likes to talk about is to reframe the value, not the cost. And then something about timelines, right? If you're going to pay anyway, right? It's a matter of time. So what I like to do is I like to ask Alex, how do I confront a client? And then I give it my full client transcript. So if we had a conversation, I feed it the transcript. If I have an email, kind of exchange, I give it the email exchange. So then it can help me to frame it in a way that is very tailored to the exact client objections, the conversation you had, and start really being very specific about the kind of feedback and advice that it gives you. And the best part is I have it on my phone. So I just talk to GPTs in the morning, like, hey, what should I do about this? And then it just tells me, this is how you should frame your offer, or this is how you should respond. Very powerful stuff.
Wow. I mean, I think the one I love the most is the reframing value. And we've saw this a bunch with like newsletter ads, stuff like that, as well as like people will pay for what is actually valuable to them. Like cost is, it doesn't matter. Like people will pay for a Bugatti or a Lamborghini or a house. It doesn't matter. Like the price point can get more and it can get ridiculous, but it's all about the value that it provides to them. So this is something that we always lead with, is like, what is your desired result and is it worth it? But you've done an amazing job of downloading 4 hours worth of transcripts to get it here, and it's amazing. You can just sit and have a conversation with it, and where this really becomes supercharged is when you give it more context. Here is the specific transcript, here's the entire conversation, here are the pain points, help me solve this. And I don't know if you've seen before, I've seen people in like job interviews where they'll have like the job interview on one screen and then they'll have like a GPT on the background like feeding them information to pass the job interview. So I can imagine people using something like this like in real time, transcribing it and then giving them the right answers to be able to close that sale. So yeah, it's pretty amazing what you've managed to do here just off your own back.
Yeah, that is cool. And I think in terms of like ROI again, like, does this work? I can tell you confidently it does. It has helped me to overcome a number of emails before and crafted it in a way that was not too forward, still in my voice, but still with the right amount of, play in Alex from YZ's kind of like point of view. So these are things that are highly actionable. Whether you're an entrepreneur or you are, you're running your own business, or you're just, happily working in a company and you want to negotiate a pay raise with your boss, right? There are so many use cases in which you can pull from these very important frameworks to get things done. So that is the final use case that I have. I think because we are running out of time as well, I would love to also share more value on how I actually build these GPTs, my exact frameworks, and also like what other valuable use cases that you can also apply in your daily life. If you are interested, you can scan this QR code or hop on this link to register your interest for one of the bespoke workshops. I think Liam can also pop the link in the description after this podcast.
100%. So this will be on YouTube, but it'll also be posted permanently on our free school community. And so this will be here permanently, and a link through to here as well to kind of sign up for some bespoke AI workshops. How have they been going so far? What kind of clientele have you had, and how's the feedback been? How have they been going so far?
Yeah, it has been actually amazing. Most of my clients, even if they are not trained in marketing or copywriting, they come up of it with a new mindset, which actually is amazing because it unlocks even new potential for them. So someone from finance could have been listening to my talk and can come out of it thinking about how they build their own custom GPTs for their own use cases, right? Because the skills that I want to teach you are skills that can be applied cross-functionally. And even my mom, after I taught her how to use certain functions, she is now a power user in her company and has trained her own team to use it. So if it works, it works.
I love it. You could train absolutely anyone. That's probably a compliment to you as well and your ability to teach and educate and train. So all props to you, Audrey. All props to you.
Awesome.
Audrey, I wanted to thank you so much for coming on today. That's blown my mind in 45 minutes. I've learned so much. This is the most I've learned this week, I think. It's the most condensed learning I've had.
Oh wow, I'm honored to hear that. It's been my pleasure. It's been my pleasure being on the podcast.
Awesome, Audrey. Okay, thank you everyone as well in the audience. I've seen that we've had between 20 and 30 in the audience today, so thank you everyone for coming, thank you everyone for listening, and yeah, I appreciate you guys. There we are.